The faces beneath Nurse Akua's skin were screaming again. She pressed her palms against her cheeks as the tiny mouths embedded there wailed in different voices, some begging for morphine, others crying for their mothers. In the hospital bathroom mirror, eyes that weren't hers blinked independently across her distorted features, watching her with hungry accusation. "Please," she whispered, fingers digging into the leather-like patches where her smooth skin had transformed. "Please be quiet. I'm trying to save my brother." From the ceiling came the sound of skittering nails, followed by a soft, knowing laughter. Akua looked up. "Listen closely, for I tell you a tale not meant for those with weak hearts. In the land where old gods still walk among men, there are some coins you must never touch, and some debts you cannot repay with money alone." The fluorescent lights of Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital flickered like tired eyes, struggling to stay awake. Nurse Akua Mensah moved through the night shift darkness, her white uniform glowing against her dark skin as she made her rounds. The hospital's new wing gleamed with foreign-funded modernity, but here in the old ward, the walls wept with decades of suffering. "Hey Akua, don't forget to check the patients in room 17. Called Sister Essie, the head nurse, whose face carried more wrinkles than her starched uniform. "Strange one that. Brought in unconscious, the size of a child, but with an old man's face." Akua nodded, though her mind was somewhere else. In her pocket lay the final notice, her brother's Kwame's school fees, overdue by 3 weeks. Without payment, he would be sent home tomorrow. "Is the patient's family coming to pay the bills?" Akua asked, her voice careful, measured. Sister Essie's eyes narrowed. "He has no family that we know of, just a pouch of old coins they found with him." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that raised goosebumps on Akua's arms. "Don't touch his belongings, especially those coins. Some money isn't meant to be spent, you hear? Some money, But poverty makes deaf ears of the desperate." Later, when the ward fell silent and even Sister Essie had dozed at her station, Akua slipped into room 17. The small figure lay motionless, his chest barely rising beneath the thin hospital sheet. His face was strange, wizened yet smooth, with features that seemed to shift if you looked too long. On the bedside table sat a leather pouch, worn and cracked with age. It called to her fingers, like a lover's touch. "Just a few coins," she told herself. "Just enough for Kwame's fees. I'll return the rest when I get paid next month." As she reached for the pouch, the patient's eyelids fluttered. Akua froze, but they did not open. Yet somehow she felt seen. She quickly took 7 coins and fled. Back home in her small apartment, with moonlight spilling through the window and onto her bed, Akua emptied the stolen coins onto a threadbare blanket. They were unlike any currency she had seen before. Heavy, with symbols that seemed to rearrange themselves when she wasn't looking directly at them. But the weight was definitely solid gold. 1, 2, 3, she counted, but when she reached 7, there were suddenly 8 coins. She frowned. 1, 2, she began counting again. 8, 9, 10? The coins were multiplying before her eyes. A skittering sound came from above, like fingernails or claws dragging across the ceiling. Akua looked up, and there, crawling across her ceiling like a lizard defying gravity, was the patient from room 17. His eyes were wide open now, glowing amber in the darkness, his mouth stretched in a smile too thin for any human face. "Akwaba," he whispered, his voice dry as cemetery dust. "Welcome to our arrangement, Nurse Akua." She screamed, but no sound came. The figure vanished, leaving only the echo of soft laughter and the impossible pile of coins on her bed, now numbering in the dozens. Morning light brought no comfort. Akua stared into her bathroom mirror, touching the strange patch of skin that had appeared on her left cheek overnight. It was leathery, tight, with a different texture than her own. As she prodded it, she could swear it resembled a small withered face. At the hospital, chaos reigned. The patient from room 17 had vanished without a trace. No doors had been opened, no windows untouched. Security footage showed only static when reviewed. "He's gone! The dwarf is gone!" cried the ward assistant, eyes wide with superstitious fear. Sister Essie cornered Akua in the closet supply, her fingers digging into Akua's arms. "Foolish girl, what have you done?" I can smell it on you. Buku's coins, I can smell it on you. Buku, I don't understand. The trickster, the little man who tests the greedy. Oh, I should have seen it. I should have known it was him when he came in. Essie's eyes fell to the patch on Akua's cheek, and she recoiled. God save you, it's already starting. Before Akua could question further, her pager beeped. Room 23, code blue. She ran, professional instincts taking over, but she was too late. The elderly woman in room 23, a patient Akua had neglected to check on during her midnight rounds because she was too busy stealing coins, lay still, her monitor a flatline wall. As Akua leaned over to confirm death, pain seared through her cheek. The patch of foreign skin burned like fire, stretching and reshaping. When she stumbled to a mirror, her scream caught in her throat. The patch had grown, taking the exact shape and features of the dead woman's face. "They show your sins," Sister Essie explained later, applying makeup to Akua's transformed cheek with practiced hands. "Each face belongs to someone you failed. Buku's curse reveals what we hide from ourselves." "But I tried to save her." "Did you? Or were you busy counting stolen coins while she called for help?" The truth stung worse than the transformation. Over the next 3 days, the faces multiplied. Each time Akua spent one of the cursed coins, paying Kwame's school fees, buying clothes, covering rent, another face appeared. Some were patients who had died on her watch while she scrolled through social media. Others were those whose pain medications she had diluted to sell the excess. The young doctor, who had been flirting with her for months now, avoided her gaze. "What's happening to your face?" he finally asked, keeping his distance. "Skin condition," Akua lied, but the faces rippled beneath her makeup as if protesting the deception. That night, working her shift, Akua found herself assigned to a critically ill young girl. As she adjusted the IV drip, the child grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "I see them too," the girl whispered, her fever-bright eyes fixed on Akua's cheek where the makeup had worn thin. "The faces, they're hungry." Akua pulled away, heart pounding. "You're delirious, small one. Rest now." But when she checked the girl's chart, her blood ran cold. The child had been admitted just hours after Akua stole the coins, with symptoms matching no known disease. And she wasn't the only one. Throughout the ward, patients were developing strange ailments, their vitality draining away as if something were feeding on their life force. That night, in the staff bathroom, Akua finally dared to fully examine herself in the mirror. The makeup washed away, revealing not just patches, but nearly half her face transformed into a grotesque collage of other people's features. Eyes of different colors blinked independently, mouths moved, whispering accusations. "You left me alone. You were on your phone when my heart stopped. You stole my morphine and I died in pain." Ikea sank to the floor, tears streaming from her own eyes whilst the others on her face remained terrifyingly dry. "What's happening to me?" she sobbed. "You're becoming what you've always been," came a voice from the shadows. Sister Essie stood in the doorway, her face solemn, but as Ikea watched, the older nurse's hands moved to her own face, peeling away what appeared to be a perfect mask of makeup. Beneath it, half of Essie's face was a mosaic of other faces, faded but still visible. "You too?" Ikea gasped. 40 years ago, Essie nodded. "I was just like you, young, desperate. I stole from a patient who wasn't a patient at all." "Buku." "Yes," Essie nodded. "The hospital trickster who comes to test us when we've strayed too far from our healing paths." Essie moved closer, her transformed face catching the harsh bathroom light. "But this hospital itself, do you know its history?" Ikea shook her head. "It was built with Buku's money. The founder made a deal with the trickster to create a place of healing. But all deals with Buku carry a price. Periodically, he returns to test us, to ensure we remember our purpose." Before Ikea could respond, her pager beeped again. Another code blew. This time, her brother Kwame, brought in after a motorcycle accident. "No," she whispered. "Not him. Please, not him." Kwame lay unconscious, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped with artificial life. Ikea clutched his hands, her transformed face now impossible to hide as the makeup melted away in her tears. "I did this," she whispered. "My cursed coins paid your school fees and now Buku has come for you too." "Not quite," came a voice from the doorway. A small man in an immaculate suit stood there, the hospital's new administrator, though Ikea had never seen him before. Despite his professional attire, something about his proportions was subtly wrong, as if he had been assembled from mismatched parts. "Your brother's accident is just that, an accident," the man said, closing the door behind him. "But a convenient one for our conversation." "Buku," Ikea said, not a question, but a recognition. The man smiled, his teeth too numerous and sharp. "The consequences of our choices often spiral beyond what we imagine, don't they? You stole to help your brother, but now look. The vases consume you, your patients suffer mysteriously, and your brother lies broken, while the stolen coins multiply without value." "Please," Ikea begged, "take back your coins. Take back this curse. I've learned my lesson." Buku laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Have you? Then let me offer you a choice." He gestured, and suddenly Dr. Akoto appeared in the corner of the room, the young doctor who had been flirting with Ikea, but now his handsome face looked terrified. "Transfer your curse to him. I know he's been stealing medications for longer than you have. His sins are greater. He deserves the faces more than you do." Dr. Akoto fell to his knees. "Please, Ikea, I have a family." Ikea looked between them, the faces on her skin now a howling chorus of judgment and pain. The choice hung in the air like a blade. "No," she finally said. "I won't curse another to save myself." Buku's eyes gleamed. "But what about your brother?" Ikea's resolve faltered as she looked at Kwame's still form. "What do you mean?" "Transfer the curse and I'll guarantee your brother's recovery." Buku's smile widened. "Otherwise, well, head injuries are so unpredictable." Dr. Akoto sobbed in the corner. "Ikea, please." The faces on Ikea's skin shifted, some seeming to look toward Dr. Akoto with hunger, others turning towards Kwame with something like pity. In that moment, as Akua's hand hovered between her brother and the doctor, she noticed something. When she looked at Kwame with genuine love, not possession, not duty, but true compassion, the pain of the faces subsided momentarily. And suddenly, she understood. "The curse isn't in the faces at all, is it?" she asked softly. "The true curse is what I did to deserve them." Buku's smile changed, becoming almost approving. Dawn found Akua moving purposefully through the ward. One by one, she visited the families of patients who had died under her care. To each, she confessed her negligence, her theft, her failures of compassion. "Your mother called for pain relief, but I was too busy on my phone. She suffered unnecessarily because of me. Your father's medication was diluted because I was stealing portions to sell. His infection worsened because of my greed. Your daughter needed someone to hold her hand as your daughter just needed someone to hold her hand as she passed, but I clocked out early. She died alone because I was selfish." With each terrible truth, each wrenching apology, a face faded slightly from her skin, not disappearing completely, but softening, the features becoming less accusatory. The most difficult confession came when she knelt before Sister Essie. "I have resented caring for the elderly and dying," she admitted, tears streaming from her eyes, all of her eyes, even those on the transformed parts of her face. "I saw them as burdens, not as people deserving dignity. I became a nurse for status, not to heal." Sister Essie embraced her. "Now you understand. The faces never fully leave us. They become a part of who we are, but they need not consume us." By evening, Akua's transformation had receded enough that she could move freely without terrifying others, though permanent scars remained where each face had been, a map of her failures etched into her skin. When she returned to Kwame's room, Buku was waiting, now in the form of the small patient from room 17. "You chose the harder path," he said. "Few do." "Will my brother recover?" Akua asked. "That depends on whether you've truly learned what healing means." Buku approached Kwame's bed. "Is it merely the absence of disease? Or is it something more?" Akua looked down at her brother, seeing not just his broken body, but the boy who had trusted her to care for him after their parents died. She had been so focused on paying his school fees that she'd forgotten to be present for him. "Healing is being whole," she said softly, "and wholeness comes from truth, both speaking it and living it." She took Kwame's hand. "I'm sorry I haven't been the sister you deserve, but I promise to do better now. Not perfect, but honest, and honest with my trying." Kwame's fingers twitched in hers. His eyes fluttered open. Buku nodded once, then turned towards the door. "The hospital was founded to heal both body and spirit. Remember that, Nurse Akua." "Wait," she called. "The other staff members, the ones stealing medications, falsifying records, neglecting patients. What about them?" Buku paused, his small hand on the doorknob. "Will you test them too?" Buku's smile was both terrible and beautiful. "I already am." And as if on cue, screams erupted from down the hallway, the voices of hospital staff discovering their own transformations beginning. They say if you go to Korle-Bu even now, you might meet a nurse whose face carries the faint tracings of other faces, a roadmap of failure and redemption. They say she runs a special ward for the dying, where no one faces their final moments alone. They say she trains young nurses not just in medicinal procedures, but in seeing the humanity behind each patient. And when they ask about the strange scars on her skin, she tells them this story, a warning that some debts can't be paid with stolen coins, and that true healing begins with facing ourselves honestly. We all wear masks, don't we? Small deceptions, convenient lies, moments when we look away instead of helping. But what if every person you failed appeared on your skin for all to see? What if your neglect, your greed, your moments of selfishness became visible for everyone who looked at you? Would you, like Akua, have the courage to face those you've wronged? Or would you transfer your curse to another, keeping your sins hidden beneath perfect skin? I see you thinking about that now. Perhaps there's a face already trying to emerge from beneath your mask. Share your truths in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Folktales from African Mythology. For Buku watches and his